welcome back to another iDoctor UK video. In this video, I'm going to be replacing the ear speaker on this iPhone 12 Pro. This is a really common fault with the 12 and 12 Pro, and we have a lot of customers come to us and ask if we can replace the ear speaker without losing Face ID. So to start off, let's remove these two pentalobe screws from the bottom of the device. I'll turn off the phone before opening it up and then use a suction cup to lift up the screen. This screen has been replaced before. I just checked it in settings before I started the video, so it should come off pretty easily. I will link above me a video where we explain deeper how to remove the screen on this model of phone, because it can be quite tricky. So now we just give it a little wiggle and we can open up the phone. As you can see, they've left the plastic film on beforehand. Ignore that part and move straight into removing the screen off this iPhone 12 Pro. Remove these two tri-wing screws that hold down the shield for the screen, then remove it using some tweezers. Use a plastic prying tool to disconnect the battery and isolate power from the phone. Then use the same tool again to disconnect the screen connector here and then the digitizer connector just there. Don't attempt to remove the screen just yet, because we need to disconnect the ear speaker sensor from the top here. It's held down with 4 screws in each corner of the shield, and these are the tri-wing screws, so the Y000 screws again. And then with those screws removed now, we can take the tweezers, lift up the shield and pull it away like that. There's a little latch on it there, so always pull it up from this top end of the shield so that it comes out easier. And again, use the plastic prying tool to disconnect this flex cable just here. That means that we can take away the screen and we'll put the chassis to one side for later. And the part that we're going to be looking at is just this ear speaker just here. To remove the ear speaker from the screen, there's one tri-wing screw in this top left corner. That's the smallest of the 4. Another tri-wing screw just below it here. We've got 2 crosshead screws on the other side of the ear speaker, here and here. Now that those screws are removed, I'm going to use tweezers to unfold the ear speaker just like that. And then I like to keep this still attached and use the screen as sort of a holding jig, which will hold the ear speaker in place whilst I do this repair. And then I'm just going to pull up with the tweezers there to release that little bit. So now that the flex is free, I'm going to take the soldering iron and then lift up the flex slightly, and then I'm just going to touch these spots here to release them. But just a touch with the soldering iron will melt that solder what's on there and release the ear speaker from the flex cable. Right, once you're into the bag, you can see that this one has got no solder on it. That's not a problem. So to add some solder on there, we're going to do a crash course in electronic soldering, and we're going to add a small blob of flux onto each pin. This is Amtech 559, I think we call it. And I'm just going to touch the pin with my soldering iron and then touch it with the solder. Touch the pin to get it warm, touch it with the solder, and that should have got some solder onto those pins now. With that now primed with some solder, we can just offer it up to the flex cable, and then I usually apply pressure where we lifted it off here. I'd line it up and put a little bit of pressure on there to make sure that it's stuck properly, and then we'll go again with the iron once it's lined up. And I'm just going to sort of brush it onto there, and then that's secured that one. And because that's now secured, the other one's in line, and because it got a little bit bent, I'm going to put a little bit of pressure on with the tweezers, and then that's secure as well. I'm quite happy with how that turned out. So all we've got to do now, fold it back over, reinstall the 4 screws. Remember, it was 2 crossheads on the right hand side, and then the 2 tri-wing screws on the left hand side. Don't forget, if you like this kind of repair content, please like and subscribe. And if you're attempting this repair yourself, I want to know how you get on in the comments below. I wouldn't sleep at night if I'd left this plastic on here, so I'm just going to peel away. And then as for the chassis, we can see as well that the previous repair technician didn't remove the seal on it, so we're going to sort that out as well. If you are replacing the dust and moisture resistant seal, whilst it's not absolutely essential, for a professional repair it is. Make sure you get all the seal off before installing a new one. I'll give it a quick brushing off to make sure that all the dust's removed and any last bits of adhesive are off there. I'll give it a quick dusting off as well, because when I've just brushed it, it generated a little bit of dust, what's gone all over the phone. And then attach our new dust and moisture resistant seal, starting off in the top left corner as always, lining it up along the left hand edge, and then making sure that it sits nice and flush all the way around. Use the back end of the spudger just to secure it down and make sure that it's stuck all the way around. The first layer of the film, and then we'll peel the last layer of the film before we seal it up. Now that that's sorted, we're going to offer up the screen, starting off by connecting the digitizer connector, followed by the OLED, or in this case LCD. The screen's not an original OLED display. And then up the top for the ear speaker and front sensor. Make sure that they're nice and secure and connected properly. And then we can offer up our first shield, which is the top one, and secure down the 4 tri-wing screws again. And once that's secure, we're going to go for reconnecting the battery. This is always a good time to test it, although I'm that confident in my work on this occasion that I'm going to seal it up for the purpose of the video. And then peel back the final layer of the adhesive film. Just this last bit, it comes in 2 parts, this one. So peel it back all the way around. Realign it to the top first, make sure that it clips into place. Apply pressure along the left and right hand edges until it sits nicely into the chassis, just like that. Whilst it's turning on, I'm going to reinstall the 2 pentalobe screws into the bottom of the phone now. Make sure they're going nice and tight so that the screen doesn't fall off. And now, when we open up the phone, I'm going to head straight to my own YouTube video, and then I always cover the bottom microphone so that we can hear that we get some noise out of this. You'll not hear much because it's just a tone, but when I hold this to my ear, I know that there's sound coming from it. If you want a visual demonstration, we could see it, the alcohol's bubbling there. That's because there's sound coming out of the ear speaker, and it's working. That just about sums up this video. That's how you replace the ear speaker on an iPhone 12 Pro. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.